Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we dive into this interview, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and make sure to turn on that notification bell. That way you're not missing any new interviews and content from Super Cool Radio. Before we start, there was some connection issues in this interview, so the audio is spotty at times. My guest is an incredible musician and vocalist, known for his time in bands such as Accept and Bonfire, and currently Bangalore Choir. Bangalore Choir released their first single entitled Bullet Train. This is off their upcoming album, Rapid Fire Succession, On Target, Part 2. Please welcome the vocalist for Bangalore Choir, David Reece.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you for having me, Matthew. Greetings from Italia.
Oh, very nice. So, how long have you been living there?
Since 2014.
Oh, wow. Over 10 years. Very nice.
Oh, yeah. Long time.
Dive into everything. Obviously, Bangalore Choir has obviously a new single and upcoming album. Before we get to that, so I'm curious for you, because you're such a talented vocalist and musician. So when did you know you wanted to become a rock singer?
Try to narrow it down to a short speech. I was a choir boy in school as a young boy. And my generation in school, if you were part of the choir as a dude, they considered it assisting a few times. I had a music teacher named Mrs. Harnick. And in those days, I was probably a high baritone tenor, until my voice changed. But she kind of singled me out and thought I had talent, and I really loved it. But I got beat up a lot. The boys, they didn't like you getting attention, certain crowds. And my first performance, I sang yesterday with her playing a classical guitar for the school. And it was an amazing feeling. I knew that. But on the way home from school that day, I got my ass kicked by some of the local bullies. And I decided I'm not going back. And a few days later, my choir teacher showed up at my home telling my mother he needs to come back. He has talent. And she said, he doesn't want to do it anymore. And she really tried, and I regret that. I stepped out. I went on further to take voice lessons and stuff like that when I started playing in clubs. But I started doing the club thing. I left home at 15, and I moved into an apartment with a bunch of people. And one of the guys was a guitar player, and I would work 2 double shifts, come home. He's playing a gig or hanging out with a bunch of chicks. I had the perfect life. I hated my life. And one day in the shower, the old days, the old AM battery radios we had on the soap dish, I was singing along with some Zeppelin, and he opened the curtain and said, "Dude, man, you can sing. You want to join my band?" I said, "Okay." And we started playing farm parties and beer parties, the old standard kickoff, I guess, story for a lot of us. And that's how it started. And then I was in Minnesota at the time. And it was a huge amount of clubs to play in the Midwest. I mean, you could play 7 days a week, but you had to do 4, 5 sets a night of cover songs that were current, But I knew that never made me feel halfway sane.
Oh, right. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your background and story with that. And it kind of, obviously kind of leads to, my further questions with everything, but kind of curious, so when you're taking the voice lessons and stuff, so how did you develop your vocals? Because you're a very powerful vocalist, really great voice. So how did you develop that?
Well, I wouldn't call it being smart, but I'd heard, a lot of singers take voice lessons. So when I just started playing clubs, I mean, that's pretty rough because you got to emulate Lou Graham. You had to do Boston in those days, Aerosmith, Priest, all that stuff. And it wears on you if you don't really know how to sing correctly. So I found a guy in the newspaper who happened to be a tenor on the Santa Fe Opera that lived in my town. And for $5 an hour, he would give me voice da 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 piano stuff. Because opera singers, they don't have a PA. They don't have a sound system. They sing 3-hour shows, 4-hour shows, 30 days in a row. Sickness, whatever. He basically taught me the fundamentals of breathing, taking care of your voice. When you're young, you don't. And we party and we do all the wrong things. But I found out later in life that opera singers are pretty wild partiers themselves. You'd be amazed at how much crap they do to themselves. But that was my intuition, I guess, to get the basics, how to breathe right and sing on key, power training, basically.
Oh my gosh, right on. Well, that obviously does lead me to like the current, kind of up to date with everything going on with Bangalore Choir, because obviously earlier this year you guys released a new single entitled "Bullet Train." So, for anyone who hasn't checked this out, like, what can they expect from the single?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the story. I was in Accept. I did the Accept Eat the Heat album, and when I was fired from that, I had to. But prior to that, I was living in LA and I couldn't get a gig. Everybody's a rock singer or standing on a corner trying to look cool, or an actor. And after Accept, I had the momentum where everybody knew who I was because I was on the tours. I had the magazines, everybody. So when I went back, I was on a mission to prove to the world that I could still stay relevant. I walk in clubs, people point at me and go, "That's that dude from Accept," and it was a whole different vibe then. And I had management called HK, who handled the Eagles, Stevie Nicks, Hart, White Snake. I got to the level of Accept, and I managed to keep that. But like in California, when you play and you're kind of shopping a new band, you don't play all the time. You play like once a month, twice a month. And after 9 shows with Bangalore Choir, I had an offer from every label on the strip. So we chose Giant Warner Brothers, which was Irving Azoff's label. It all just fell into place. And that band, I brought back that German work ethic that I had to kind of learn when I was in Accept. Because when you're in a club band in the Midwest and you're playing the 350 shows a year, you basically, it's just kind of you're in a vicious cycle of playing the same Canadian Midwest back and forth every 6 weeks. But during the production of that record with Accept, the producer said to me, you have a great voice, but you don't know what it is, and neither do I. It's my job to find it. Because you spend your career trying to sound like Halford or Tyler, those guys, you can hit the notes, but you don't have the identity. So by the time I had finished Accept, I had the identity, which brings you to the Bangalore Choir record On Target, which was released in '92. Now, the new single, Bullet Train, I've been doing for a long time is solo work. And I do pretty well with that. But in business, branding is what it's all about. And David Reece, the name, is well known in Europe and semi-known in America in certain markets. So I was in France end of last year doing a bunch of gigs. And in my set, I played the On Target songs from Bangalore's first record. I do a lot of Eat the Heat stuff and my solo stuff. And it's really crazy because when Bangalore Choir On Target was released, like the next week after that, Nirvana released Nevermind. So all of us got dropped. I mean, the record was out for about 6 weeks and then rock and roll was dead. I think we kind of committed suicide in a way because everybody had the Blonde Bleach Blonde Singer, the big power ballad, the football stadium-sized stages for videos. It was so overdone, and then Nirvana just flipped music on its head. But yeah, so bringing you up to date with the new album, Rapid Fire Succession on Target, I started thinking about the branding, what the crowd response was, and what, because when we got dropped from Warner Brothers, I was told rock and roll was over, get a real job, and I basically did. I disappeared for about 9 years, but I didn't know that the UK and Europe were probably 2 years behind the curve of the States. Bangalore Choir was a household name because I did Firefest in England in 2010, and people were like, I've been waiting 20 years for this. I'm like, what? You know, this band was huge. I didn't know that. I was told to go home. And when you listen to the suit and tie guys, you kind of believe their gospel, right? But getting back to that branding thing, I was going home back to Italy with the guys, and I said, I'm going to do it, because I saw that Mike Tramp was doing the songs of White Lion. A lot of the bands are going back from their solo career and playing their kickoff catalog, what made them basically known. And when I told management and the booking agency that was my decision, they were jumping for joy. So that brings me into the conundrum of going, okay, if I'm going to repeat and put Bangalore Choir back together, first I'm going to call the remaining members that are still with us. And one of them agreed, the other said, no, thanks. So I also had to find some similarities in the songs and go back in my head to 91. Not easy. I'm lucky and fortunate enough to have Andy Susamil as a guitarist, who had actually played some Bangalore Choir shows with me and done some BC records since, the mid 2000s. We tried it a few times. Our first initial effort to get back to that vibe was failure. I think we wrote 4 or 5 songs together, and I go, it's just not clicking yet. It's not working. And I think the first rhythmic thing that he sent me for this album was a song called Driver's Seat, and that will be our second single, which is coming out the 19th of September. I said, that's it, Andy. That's what we're looking for. That's Slipping Away. That's All or Nothing. That's the ingredient. And when that started, Bullet Train was like second, the single that you're hearing now. That one fell out of the sky, and then it just was like a roller coaster. Oh, and also I looked at the artwork. I studied it intensely. I said, I have to be recognizable with the logo. I've got to kind of go back in time. And I was doing records during the COVID nightmare and all that stuff for a bunch of guys in a band called Goot. Some of them are Russians. And it's kind of sad because of the war. They can't communicate with me like you and I. They have to go through Dutch people that play with them, Italian people. And that's how they found me. Well, the bassist, Simon, is, I recommend Goot, by the way. I've done 3 or 4 records with them. Great bunch of players, great people. But Simon, the bassist, is a graphic designer, and he had come to visit me one day here in Italy, and I showed him the album cover. I said, I'm going back to this look, this brand, and this sound as close as I can get. So I had the image in my head of the album cover, which you've probably seen on social media.
Oh, yeah.
And it's similar to On Target. So I had to put all of that stuff in my head, which wasn't easy. And we recorded somewhere upwards of 24 tracks. And this record is 16 songs. It's Act 1, Act 2. There's 8 and 8 because it just fell together. Would you like me to tell you about some of the people playing on the record?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the writing and recording experience for this album, and how was it like trying to capture, the successor to On Target?
It was tough, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like I said, the first 4 or 5, I knew it wasn't right, and Andy knew it wasn't right. So he's so gifted. I'm so blessed. We just played last Saturday in Switzerland. We did an acoustic gig, which is really challenging to play acoustic music. I mean, it's not blasting. You really have to sing, you have to play, and it's very intimate, and you almost feel like you're like that nightmare you have when you're a kid, you go to school naked, you forgot to put your clothes on. It's kind of like that feeling on stage. But if it's kind of, I realize when people are quiet, they're listening, and then the applause. They're not screaming like an electric show. Anyways, back to normal. The people involved with the record, there's also another guitarist that I reached out to, is Mario Percadani, who played with Hardline. Mario lives close by as well. And he and I have done some writing and recording together. I called him knowing that his style was right for Bangalore Choir. And the third single is called I Never Meant To. It's our ballad, and it's really a special track. He had the music for that. I wrote the lyrics to it. We had another one called I'm Headed For, and there's another one called Love and War. We put 3 together. Then I reached out to Ferdy Durenberg, who's the keyboard player for Axel Rudy Pell, dear friend of mine. I wanted to do kind of an Elton John kind of thing, piano, gospelish. It's called Mending Fences. Killer track. It's the final song on Act 2. Last January, I was invited to do a thing called Rock Party of the Year in Holland with Robert Soderbergh, who was the singer for Wicked Sensation, and I kind of replaced him and did a record or 2 records with them after Robert had left. But he had reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this thing. It's 2 nights in Holland, Rock Party of the Year. It's multiple singers and a lot of famous people. We had guys from Golden Earring on stage. We had Les Binks, was his last performance from Judas Priest. He died 2 weeks later, playing drums. Strange situation. So we played 2 nights, the 31st of January and February 1st. And while I was doing that, there's a guitar player called Marcel Singer playing all the guitar parts. There was one other guitar player, but he was kind of the lead guy, and I was watching him, and he played like 60 songs per night. And then we're talking huge venues, sold out, incredible gig. And I was looking at his fingers, and they were kind of bleeding, and they were flat. And I said, dude, are you all right? He said, I love this. But he had something. I said, you and I should write together. This is before I even really took the Bangalore Choir idea completely in my head. And we wrote a song called Sail On together. Killer track. Kind of got a jump feel, guitar-wise. Van Halen-y. He was really special. But my rhythm section is actually my solo band rhythm section. Riccardo Di Morosi on bass and Nelo Savinelli on drums, who we've toured together in my solo ventures for quite a few years and around Europe. And his brother, one of the brothers, came with me to America last year to play some gigs. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to change the rhythm section because rock and roll, a rhythm section has to be driving nails. You know, they have to be, the bass player and drummer have to really be punching it, you know. And I kept them involved because they're good guys and they're great musicians. And Ricardo has a studio 5 minutes from my house. So I've been doing the group records there, solo records there, writing with him. So it's a collective of a bunch of crazy people that are really talented. And then I'm doing, I don't know if you've seen in the promotion, I go in October, I kick off after the release of October 24th. I start the 28th in France. I do a bunch of headline Bangalore Choir shows there. And then in November, I kick off with Alcatraz and Girls School. Now, ironically, the singer of Alcatraz is Giles Lavery, but he also sings for Warlord. And I went to see Warlord in Italy at a big club, and it was not my audience. It was a Man of War crowd. Because usually when I go there in Milan, everybody knows me. I know them. But this was not my crowd. But I saw his 2 guitar players and went, wow. Well, I already knew one of them, Eric Uros. And I said, I need a power punch guitar team like that. Because Bangalore Choir was, what it means is a Bangalore torpedo. It means explosive vocals. It's a weird name, but it kind of sticks in your head. And Bangalore came from my brother because he's a Marine, and so is my nephew. And call it Bangalore. I go, what's that? It's a town in India, right? And they go, no, it's a tube that you use to blow up Constantine wire. And I went, oh, 5-part harmonies, explosive vocals. Long story short, I said, I'm going to bring those guys on tour with me in October and November. I need them to play on the record too. And they played all the rhythms, but I had them play the same rhythm 3 times each. And then I panned it on the production. And by the way, the guy that mixed it, Thomas Mergler is his name, from Germany. He did an insane job, as you can hear with Bullet Train. Great production. So Eric Uros and Diego Pires will be my touring guitar players. And Andy may join in on some special dates in Germany that we have, if it's near his location. But That's pretty much the map of who's involved. And I got to tell you, Bullet Train is about as close as what you're going to get to On Target, but with kind of a modern sound. It's number one in radio, 97 Underground, Baltimore. I just found out yesterday. It's gone full rotation, metal shop. I mean, Brave Words is doing an incredible job. Brandvold, getting it out there. So the response has been, I can't ask for anything else.
Oh, for sure. I've seen the reception for it, and it's been incredible, and definitely deserves it because, like, the single is awesome. It's just a hard rocker. I really enjoy it, and production sounds amazing, and it just like fits that vibe because obviously I've listened to On Target, and like listening to Bullet Train, like it fits that vibe and attitude.
Well, that matters what you just said, because I may think so, but that doesn't mean you think so. But it's all subjective. But it was a fight to find that. I got to find that thing, and you try to go back 30 years in your head. What was going on in your mind? What I realized as a solo artist, I was doing heavier stuff because the guys I play with here, the young Italian guys, Ricardo and Leto, they came from the grunge era. So they kind of listened to Soundgarden. They listened to Nirvana. They listened to Corey Taylor and Slipknot. They liked Marilyn Manson. So they put a lot of that influence in it, and I started singing heavier. But what I really truly am is a hard rock blues singer. I'm not a metal guy. I'm Bangalore Choir. That's my band, my baby. That's David Reece. By the grace of God, maybe from the training and early we talked about with schooling and everything, I have managed to keep my voice in pretty fair shape all these years and continue to hit some of those notes that I used to be able to, but not all of them, because with time you lose a little. Everybody does. But if you sleep right, you don't party, and you practice every day, you keep that muscle in shape, like a tennis player,
Oh, for sure. It's about that muscle memory. It's about, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's very true. So, like, to be active with it, like, again, it sounds like if you listen to On Target and you listen to, Bullet Train, like, you still sound like phenomenal as a vocalist.
Oh, well, I very much appreciate that. It was, the thing too is if the song is right, I sing it right. And I don't have a studio. I had one, but what I tended to do was go in and record myself and go, oh, that's great. And then I play it for a friend and they go, eh. Because singers have a real problem with loving themselves. That's good enough. Or I'd walk past it and go, I'll do it later. And then I would do nothing that day. I have to go to a studio and work with people I trust behind the glass, because you can see it on their face. They'll do this. They'll be staring at the board. But if they're not moving, they're not buying the song. Yeah. That's not Dave. And you're going, what do you mean, man? No, this is Dave. And then I do a certain thing like God. So I need that as a singer, because I can't self-produce myself. I'm terrible.
Oh, for sure. You need the other people around you to either say you're doing great or you're doing terrible, and you need that feedback.
Yeah, you got to sell the song.
Exactly.
It's a performance. I mean, it's not the same as live. A lot of times in this day and age, with as difficult it is to get steady tours and stay out for lengthy times. The old days, we used to write the songs in the old cheap hotels, go play them at night, test them, then go demo them, build up, 10 songs and shop to record companies. Now, you kind of have to go, all right, compile a bunch of tracks, go record them, and then play them live. And when you play them live after doing it the new way, you start saying, well, I should have maybe done it this way because I'm singing it like this. It feels better like that. You know what I mean? You kind of learn as you go.
We're starting to close out this interview. I just got a few more things I did want to touch on before we head out. So I am very curious for you, because obviously with Bangalore Choir, you perform obviously Bangalore Choir songs, but you also do Accept songs. So I'm curious for you, like in a live setting, like what is your favorite Bangalore Choir song to perform live and Accept song to perform live?
The Accept songs that work in my set are Ecstasy, Generation Clash, and Hellhammer. The Bangalore stuff would be Angel in Black, Slipping Away, Victim of the Night, All or Nothing, Freight Train Rolling. With this new album, you've got a little bit of each one of those tracks. But those are the ones from the first record that seem to fit with the crowd and me vocally and energy wise. That's why it was so imperative that I go back and, because, the first track on the record is called How Does It Feel? It's got an Angel in Black vibe, which Steve Plunkett wrote Angel in Black from Autograph. And that was my hit. Oh, Loaded Gun was the first video, which has not many people know. If you watch that video, the young boy is Jared Leto, the actor.
I didn't know that.
It's ironic. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I didn't either. I had a girlfriend in Germany 20 years ago, and she goes, "You realize who that is, right?" And I go, "No, that's Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars and the Dallas Buyers Club and all these movies." I'm like, "What?" And I looked at the bag, go, "That's him." And the funny thing was, all these actors come in to be in a video, and the girl that's in it, I can't remember her name, forgive me, but she went on to be a famous actress as well. Long story short, I'm in Germany. My girlfriend at the time is a 30 Seconds to Mars fan. We somehow end up backstage, and he's standing there, and I introduced myself, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he's looking at me like, "I know you, but where?" I said, "I'm David Reece from Bangalore Choir. You were the actor in my single Loaded Gun." And his mother was there, and he grabbed his mom because she brought him to the audition. He was like 13 years old, 14 years old. So he's like, "Oh, that was my first acting gig. Oh my God." I think we paid him like $100, but it was just so funny. The years go by, the mid 2000s, and I'm meeting this superstar actor, rock guy.
It's so funny how like stuff like that in life works out. Those kind of moments. It's just so, because obviously, like, when the music video started, you didn't know, like, Jared Leto was going to become, who he is now. That is so cool.
And I didn't even know it. I mean, even that he'd been, I've watched his movies. It never even dawned on me. But when you look at his eyes and then you look at that kid, you go, "Oh, that's him." Because back then he had kind of a James Dean haircut, and the slick back hair and the sleeveless shirt. And I was like, he's got a great look. That's the guy. The guy was kind of worn out too. Fate, I've seen like 10 guys with the management. That's the kid, They were all beautiful, but we just randomly picked him.
All right, so now as we close out this interview, David, it was a great time chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Too.
So I'm kind of curious. So as we're kind of closing out 2025, heading into the fall, like, what is like the rest of this year and early 2026 looking like for Bangalore Choir?
France kicks off, as I mentioned earlier, headlining Bangalore Choir. My manager Valentin Labani has put together that. I did it. All the shows that I've done in Europe and other places in the world, I've never played France. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Be on the border in a German town or something, but let's book France, but it never really came into fruition. That was my first tour of France last year in November or December, whatever it was. And the places were full. I had a fan base there, which I was unaware of. So that's where it kicks off. We do 5 nights there. I come home, and I'm home for a couple of weeks, and then we kick off. I'm the first band, and then Alcatraz and Girls School, and we're doing about a 3-week run into December. And then there's Chuck right now with another major band in America that maybe want to do a tour together, kicking off in April in the United States. And I have festivals confirmed for next year in Europe for Bangalore, July, the festival season, June, July, August, September. So the branding again, David Reece, oh yeah, we know who he is. He's really cool. We like working with him. But once you put the moniker there, the brand logo, it kind of opened a lot more opportunities for me. And I'm really thinking that being with Brave Words and was a right choice for me, because I had a record company before, but my options were up and they were saying, "You coming back? We're going to do another record?" Yeah. But then I talked to Giles Lavery and I said, "I know you work for Brave Words. I know how big that site is and what they're doing, they're building. I would really like a shot at being on that label. And he said, only if you do a Bangalore Choir record like On Target. That we can work with. And I was introduced to Brandvold. I knew who Mike was, but he was in Minnesota when I was there years and years ago. But the collective of the right people in the right place will give this a chance to hopefully, but we're off to a good kickoff. I mean, when you get written by Brandvold and say, congratulations, you're #1 in Baltimore. That's the honor, the feeling, dude, I can't explain. Metal Shop, those guys have been really pushing it. And I'm really excited to see how Driver's Seat, the next single, does, because it's right up there, right up that alley. And it's got a video done too for it, just as well as Bullet Train.
Oh, very nice. Well, you have an incredible team around you, some great people, and it shows, the music speaks for itself as well. But with the right team, you go even further with everything. And I'm so happy for the reception and response Bangalore Choir has received.
And thank you for talking to me. I appreciate, because, without you, there's no me. And it's kind of like people. I always say there's two kinds of musicians. There's players and listeners. And I put interview people and media people kind of in that same box. If nobody's talking to me about my record, that's not a very good feeling. And I've been pretty busy talking about this. I can't wait for you to hear the whole record.
I will leave some links for Bangalore Choir in the description of this podcast. Please check out and support them. Be on the lookout for Rapid Succession on Target Part 2 when it is available. But for David Reece, I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.